Hi, Yani, Neeraj. Oh. Hi, Vapis. Yay, Naas is here. All right, excellent. We're getting quite a few players, viewers joining in. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes and then kick off. Hi, Mahesh. Razmataz, I'm doing well. Thanks, Khurram. You're very kind. Hey, Rajiv. Kaushal, how are you? Right, I think I'm going to start off. Welcome to the Rugby India 360. I'm Nasser Hussain, CEO Rugby India, and I'm going to be taking you through this episode. A lot of you might be wondering, what is Rugby 360, Rugby India 360? So basically, Rugby India's 360 was a thought to try and get an outlook of rugby in India, to try and cover all aspects, all areas around the game, and try and get this information out to everybody. I'll repeat that in Hindi so that the others can understand as well. ये शो है जिसमें हमने हमारी कोशिश है कि रग्बी के सारे जो एरियाज़ है उस पर हम बातचीत करें, चर्चा करें और वो इन्फॉर्मेशन सभी को पहुंचाए. तो ये है रग्बी इंडिया 360 शो. So series 1 of this show will cover areas like players, coaches, government, media, Asia Rugby, Rugby India. Series 2, which will kick off in May, will cover areas like match officials, medical, states, clubs, sponsors, and World Rugby. So that's the idea, to try and give everyone as much information and get insights from these various areas. Last week's episode, we featured players. You had Wabis here interviewing Vikas Khatri, who is the national team, Indian national team captain, and also a member of the Delhi Hurricanes. Players, as we know, are the center of the game, and there were a lot of discussions or points that Chotu brought out, which were very pertaining to players and the demands of the game. This week we're looking at coaches. Coaches, as we know, play a pivotal role in sport, in developing the sport and improving the standard of play. I would like to take this opportunity to actually thank all the coaches that we've had, coaches at club level, at school level, coaches at the district level, at university level, at the state level, at the zonal level, for their contribution. I mean, their efforts are really, hats off to them in terms of their commitment to the sport. You are an integral part of the system. Also, we can't forget our national coaches. So I'd like to acknowledge all the national team coaches that we've had over the last 20 odd years. So I'll start off with thank yous to Japan Rugby and the Japanese coaches that they've sent out. Taki-san, Josuke-san, Watanabe-san, Hagimoto-san, Toru-san. Thank you to Hong Kong Rugby for the coaches like Stephen Dowse, Pale Tauti, Craig Wilson. Thanks to Asia Rugby, Singapore Rugby for sending across Ismail Qadir to help us out. Thank you to Sri Lanka Rugby and Ronnie Abraham. We've had independent coaches come out from Europe as well. Graham Cooper, Rob Jones, Alan Gletson, Dave Higgins, Pierre Bellemere. From South Africa, we've had Henry Marnitz, Norman Laker, From Fiji, we've got Usaya Buimaiwai, Sakaria Labalaba, Eleanor Kunatuba. From New Zealand, Willie Heteraka, Scott Pearce, Craig DeGoldie, and the likes of Henry Paul and Mike Friday, who are with Canada Rugby and USA Rugby at the moment. It's quite a long list. But yeah, it's in case I've missed out on some names, it was unintentional. We do apologize, but yeah, we'd like to thank all these coaches for their efforts. Also, I think what normally gets unnoticed is the senior players and ex-players who've contributed: Chaitanya, Minal, Kuldeep, Emil, Sendil, Hemant, Sandeep Singh, Roshan, Sanjay, Remu, Vikas. I mean, the effort you guys put in also adds quite a bit. Okay, that's, I think, quite a bit of thank yous from my end. So coming back to today's guest, a man who doesn't need an introduction, a legend of the game, has represented the Springboks, South Africa for 12 years, has 28 international caps, was probably one of the highest point scorers for South Africa for the longest time with about 312 points, played in the fly half position, was voted World Rugby Player of the Year for 4 years, which is quite an achievement. He was also, has been head coach of the Indian National Team, men and women. We've been very, very lucky. He currently is a rugby commentator with South African Mnet and Supersport TV channels. So yeah, we're very, very lucky to have Naas Botha with us. I'm going to actually look him up and add him to this call. So just bear with me. Just waiting for Naas to sign in. Hey,
Hello,
Naas.
Nasser. Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing? Namaste.
I'm very good. South Africa, the lockdown is fine. We cope with whatever they give us, and I gather we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it is similar over here as well. In fact, our lockdown's been extended till the end of the month. So I guess we're going to be stuck indoors for a couple of more weeks.
Yeah, we also now till the end of April. So we gather that somewhere in May, something might turn back to normal. But at the end, we're all watching the news and whatever, and they keep telling us how many people recover and how many deaths and whatever. But I gather we all believe in one thing: one death is just one too many. So it's quite sad.
Yeah, it is. It's true. It's a tough phase at the moment. Similarly, we are just monitoring the situation, assessing things, and going to take it as per the advice of the authorities.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, we've got actually quite a few viewers, listeners who've logged in. Around about 80 odd people from a lot of national team players, aspiring players, people from across Asia. So it should be a good audience for us. Before we get into it, just what keeps you busy in this lockdown?
To be honest, while I was in Italy many years ago, I actually cooked for myself. So that worked quite nicely. So me and the girls at the moment, we occupying the kitchen quite a bit. And we're trying different dishes. So that's helping. And then in the afternoon, late afternoon, the little one, Ligra, is still playing hockey. Not at the moment, but I mean, she's trying to stay fit. So you won't believe, but I saw Yanni and Ludwig all asking, are we going to do some, I don't know, some training or running or whatever. But I'm actually in the afternoon doing a little bit of fast walking and a little bit of jogging. So next time when we train with the boys, I think I might be slightly better off than the last year.
Excellent. I'm sure everyone's listening to that and a bit worried about the next training session when you're fitter than what you were. What I'm going to do is probably jump straight into it. South Africa winning the 2019 Rugby World Cup in Japan. Your thoughts on that?
About 2 months before the World Cup started, I thought, we always will be one of the better teams going into any World Cup. It doesn't matter how it works out or pan out, but South Africa will always be like 90% in a semi-final. But then when he announced the squad, when Rassie announced the squad, I looked at that squad and I thought the possibility of winning the World Cup is absolutely, and I'm serious now, 100%, because I thought it was a fantastic squad. He was really surrounding himself with good quality coaches. And then I got a little bit of an insight ear in a little bit of the preparation and whatever. And the closer we got to the World Cup, I thought we definitely going to win this one. I know it's easy to say it now, but I was quite outspoken about it at one stage. And then World Cup started, and I thought the first game, apart from, let's be honest, 5 minutes of bad play by South Africa, for 75 minutes, we played a great game. And that was, for me, far more important than the result, if I can put it that way. And at the end, Nasser, not surprised at all. Especially when New Zealand lost to England, because I thought if there's a team that can match South Africa during that World Cup, it will be New Zealand. But then when they went out, I just never, and it's easy in hindsight to come up with comments, but I never thought England was going to beat us in the final. I just didn't think they were good enough in the tight five.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. So Rassie Erasmus as coach and his influence on the team. What did you think of him?
90% we're going on hearsay, and it sounded like everybody bought into the way he wanted to play. I think he surprised everybody the way he played against Wales. It was such a dull game. The result could have been different, but he just never showed his hand at all. And I think that surprised a lot of people, because in the final, it was one of the closest games that I've seen in a very long time, where you can maybe talk about a perfect rugby game. Everything worked. The tight five worked. The loose forwards, halfbacks, everybody contributed. That's one. First phases, second phases, third phases, absolutely fantastic. 2 fantastic tries South Africa scored, and then Andre Pollard kicking magnificently. Now, what else can you ask? That's all you can do in a rugby game.
It was a very exciting final.
Yeah,
without doubt.
And then I think, to be honest, he surprised everybody the way he implemented his replacements. I saw after the World Cup, quite a number of guys started talking about maybe you should only be replaced when you're injured. But I gather we all understand, there's a little bit of a new formula on the table. Now, if you can implement it the right way, as Rassie did, you can't find any fault with that. And let's be honest, Nasser, I think he surprised everybody. But to be honest, all 23 players really, really played a great World Cup.
Sure, it was a complete team effort, including the support staff and management. He did use tactical substitutions and very strategically, which obviously helped as well. You've been involved at the top end of the game, have played at the highest level, have also been involved in commentating and analyzing games and coaches. So have you seen a major change in coaching methods and styles over the last decade?
Quite a bit, yeah. And unfortunately, I don't always believe for the better, to be honest, because during the first part of this year's Super Rugby, and I also watched quite a bit of the French League and also the English League, and then Pro 14 put it this way, watch about every single game, trying to see what can I take out of every single game. And Nasser, I think somewhere along the line, we need to address, it's either the laws or maybe a little bit mentality. Because at one stage, I counted in one Super Rugby game 11 times, 5 meters from the goal line, scrum off to a forward, got tackled, scrum off to a forward, scrum off to a forward, 11 times. And to be honest, I just think as an outsider, looking at the games, I think there's more to rugby. I think what we need is somewhere we need to get back to a little bit more using the intellect in games, especially in the way we play. I think in maybe, if I can compare, and we don't want to compare because we know it's totally different eras, but sometimes you need to look at what was on the table, what's on the table. And I think we need to move a little bit further from, you know, you don't need to bench 180 to be a good rugby player. You know, you need a little bit. That. Yeah, no, you need a little bit more. And I think, you know, at the end, I try and find the positive out of this whole break that we have in life, if I can put it that way. And maybe it's now time for some guys to sit back and get them out of that groove and think, but there's a little bit more to rugby. And that's why I'm going back to the World Cup final. For once, we've seen 15 players contributed to a game. And you had skill, that's one thing. You had the muscle, and you had arrogance, and that's what rugby is all about. And I think sometimes skill lacks a little bit, especially at some stages. And the other thing, Nasser, that worried me slightly is it's the same game week in and week out. You know, it's let's try, play. Okay, nothing happens, then we kick the ball away, and then somebody else try, and then we kick the ball away again. And I think I think there's more to rugby. I think skill is, for me, number one on the table. Fitness is definitely at a different level because we're trying to get more and more playing time. So I'm not going to put blame on anybody, but I think somewhere along the line, maybe one or two law changes might contribute a little bit to a different attitude towards games. Right. And I think maybe sometimes coaches need to think of, you know, the way they want to analyze. It's the thing that stands out. And that's coming from, you know, and you've heard this before, of a lot of international coaches. The Fens win World Cups. And I think for once, South Africa proved to play, actually win World Cups.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to be playing offense to score, to win.
That's it.
And yeah, it is not all brawn. You need brains as well in the game, which is very, very important. We're going to take you back in time a bit. So while you were a player, your fondest memory of being a player?
Yeah, I know it sounds an old cliche, but I don't think I was different, but I think every single game I played, I actually enjoyed it. You know, I had club finals. Amazingly, in South Africa, I played a number of club finals, never won one.
Really?
And then, yeah. And then, you know, I went to America, I won the club final there. And then I went to Italy and I won a couple of club finals there, but never won in South Africa. And this just shows you, you know, doesn't matter how you look at it, there's always something that's going to be missing in the bigger puzzle. But then Currie Cup's made up for that. And then, you know, 28 times, unfortunately, I played in a different era. Apartheid was quite a big part of South Africa at that stage, and we were excluded out of World Rugby. But I was quite fortunate to still play 28 international. But seriously, a normal game for me, just a normal game was for me just the way I want it to be. So if you talk of highlights, yes, a number. Currie Cups in those days, that was like a World Cup final for South Africa. So I was fortunate there to have 7 what do you call it, medallions, medals, and then unfortunately never played in World Cups because that only started in '87 and we were still excluded. So that's a pity. But New Zealand tour in 1981, very difficult tour, but absolutely fantastic just to be a Springbok playing in New Zealand rugby. There's, to be honest, there's so many that I'm just going to stick to it that every game I played was, for me, good enough.
Right, excellent. You see a lot of players have pre-match rituals, superstition that they follow. Did you have any before a game?
Not really. I had a pair of boots that I played under 15 for my school, and that was when I was that was 15 and 2 years, and 4 years later, 5 years later, 4 years later, I played my first provincial game for Northern Transvaal in the same pair of boots. I was just one of those guys. If I like something and it fits, then it's fine. And then 3 years later, so that makes it now 7 years. No, 6 years. Yeah, 6 years later. 6 years later, I played my first international in that. So it was all torn apart and whatever. My dad had to fix it and put some extra leather in, and so I had one pair that I actually played with for like 7 years, if I can put it that way. And then I've always until today I tie my left boot first, or shoe, or whatever. Why, I've got no idea. I will never put my right foot in before I put my left foot in. But apart from that, absolutely nothing. I think the only thing that actually went through my mind more than anything else is, how the hell are we going to win this?
All right, excellent. You and your team of coaches, Yanni, Chris, Ludwig, Louis, have been in India and been involved with Rugby India for almost a year now. What was your initial reaction when you first came across rugby in India?
That was my first meeting with rugby was in Mumbai, and with the club, and I thought I was pleasantly surprised. I know rugby has been around India for many, many years, so it's not like it's something new. And I think that's where people sometimes make the mistake, because they're not really part of the, let's say, the bigger picture of world rugby. And then the quality of the players absolutely surprised me. I thought skill might not be there. Bulk, maybe that's still a little bit lacking, but I think at the end, that first training camp, working with a number of players, they surprised everybody. We all spoke about it. We said, but what can we do to help a little bit? Okay, and then it was maybe the skill level under pressure was one thing that I thought we could really address. But to be fair to the player, they're not playing too many internationals, and hopefully, before I go on that, I think let's put this on the table. Hopefully, with this break, World Rugby will look at the bigger picture and put structures in place that teams like India, Singapore, Philippines, whatever, Switzerland, all those countries become part of the bigger picture. I would like to see that. That's why that World League that they introduced, I thought that was a great idea. It's a pity that somebody voted against that, and that sort of got off the table. I think they need to put that back onto the table, because we definitely need something different going forward after this break. And then coming back to the players, I thought, okay, as I said, maybe a little bit skill under pressure, because you know, if you move around and you start playing higher level, it's all about pressure. That's one thing. And then you know, I think Chris sorted out, especially the first phases. He and Yanni and Ludwig sorted out the defense. And I think at the end, looking back at the tournaments that we had, the goals I thought was absolutely fantastic. You know, you could sense that the sevens mentality is is very, very well worked into their minds, and we had to make them understand there's a big difference between sevens and 15s. It's totally different ball games, and that was maybe one aspect that we can still, when we start again, really work on, because the kicking game is not really part of Indian rugby at the moment. We need to really sort that out. But I think first phase is overall much better. You know, I think people that, and you mentioned a number of names. I was listening and I thought, yes, but there's quite a number of people that contribute to Indian rugby, and I still believe that with the right opportunities going forward now, playing definitely more internationals, hopefully, people might be quite surprised with the talent coming out of India. We, as I said, we might, and let's hope Yanni can sort this out. We might need a little bit more bulk with the tight five, but overall, you look at your loose forwards, you look at your backline players, fantastic skilled players, and I think somewhere it's sad that the world haven't really seen that yet.
No, that's it's good to know that we have the skill set. I mean, for the players watching, they need to develop themselves under pressure, dealing with that, so that we can improve, and obviously look at the tight five, because that has been a bit of a, I wouldn't say weakness, but we are the lack of in terms of depth and numbers. I mean, we spoke about the women's team and how, I mean, you've been involved with them as well. In their fourth ever international match, they managed to secure a win. I mean, you were part of that win against Singapore. You want to share your experience leading into that, and what the win meant to the girls?
Yeah, I you know, that was an experience that, you know, only they can ever explain how it felt after the game. But to be honest, how I can sum it up is the media was quite into that win, and I got quite a number of opportunities to express our gratitude to the team, because at the end it's the girls that's doing it. You can tell and ask and plead and whatever. At the end, there's a team that needs to go and do it on the field, and that's what they did. But to sum it up, Nasser, I think the best is, I had an interview with one of the big newspapers, I gather, in India, and the guy was going on, and at least for about 45 minutes, we had this discussion about this win. And then at the end, he said, "But how many players in a team?" and then I realized, okay, he just doesn't know the game rugby at all. But because of the win, we got a number of people really interested in the game, and a lot of people suddenly picked up Indian rugby, and even in South Africa, it was in the news that the girls won, and it was quite I think it was quite a fantastic experience for even the girls to realize that what they achieved. Now I go back to the number of training camps we had, and every single training, and sometimes you could just sense that they tired and they don't want to really, but as soon as they get between the four lines, they just put all their effort in, and I think at the end, and that's what I said even in those days, it's all about them. It's got nothing to do with us. We just there to assist and help a little bit, and I think, or hopefully we did, because it was just a fantastic experience. But with that comes the responsibility, and the responsibility is now on the team. You can't. I want to say you can't go backwards. You can only go forward, and that's what needs to happen from now on. When we get back to normal situations, they will know there's a big responsibility suddenly on their shoulders. So that's why I say it's fantastic to win, but with winning comes other stuff that's very important.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be fair to the girls, yeah, they do put in a lot of effort, and I mean, all credit to them in terms of their achievement. And they have, to be honest, put India rugby on the map because of the achievements they've and over the last couple of years as well. I just hope we can continue that momentum going forward as well. In terms of your coaching philosophy or mantra that you follow or you would like to inculcate amongst the players?
I'm glad that rugby proved that the more we talk to how it changed, it stays the same. I think going back to the World Cup, scrum's always been part of my philosophy. I like the tight five scenario. I know our backs, we run with the headlines in the newspapers, but the five guys up front, that's where the game starts and that's where it really ends. If you've got a good tight five, you scrum well, you do your lineouts well, you do your kickoffs well, you're always going to be. So first phases are, for me, extremely important because that's where it all starts. Right. I'm a great believer in contesting. I think some coaches say they rather defend. I think, contesting on every single facet of the game, it's quite, or phase of the game, it's quite important for me. And then my philosophy is a little bit more, give the player the skill, and then you work out what you have. And I think a lot of, when I see it, a lot of teams work out the game plan and then they go and find the players to do that game plan, or a lot of coaches do that. They go, and that's where I still appreciate, if I can put it this way, the New Zealand mentality. I think that's what New Zealand teams do. They equip the player with extremely great skill, if I can put it that way, and then they'll figure out how to play. Where a number of other teams look at the game plan and then we go and we'll find players to do that. So that's where I'm slightly different. I believe a game is a 50-50. Offense is 50, defense is 50. I think what we've seen in the past, and I think at one stage, and in South Africa looked like we moved on now, but at one stage you looked at about 60-40, 60% defense, 40% offense. But right. I think the World Cup final proved that we're more than capable of doing it the 50-50, or sometimes. See, some games, Nasser, allow you to go 70-30 offense. It's just the kind of game. But when the game doesn't allow that, I think what teams tend to do is go 80-20. And I still think it's a 50-50. That's just the way I look at it. I'm not saying I'm right, but I still think that we're on the field to enjoy every single minute. And I've spoken and I've listened to a number of players in the last, say, 10, 15 years in South Africa. And a lot of players would come and say, but I'm not enjoying this. I'm not enjoying taking the ball, kick it in the air, taking the ball, kick it in the air. They just didn't enjoy that. And I think that sometimes you have to listen to that. But, you know, success is success. It doesn't matter sometimes how you achieve it. But I think with the laws changing quite a bit, let's be honest, before I say that, let's be honest, a couple of years ago, the ball carrier was the one that was really getting the advantage. The defender really got all the advantages. If we go to one law that I still think they don't imply enough in the game is if a player gets tackled, he must be allowed to place the ball immediately. You know, and I know, and we've seen it. The player is still going to the ground. Then the assistant tackler moves in and he puts his hands on the ball. And then the player that's going down with the ball is getting penalized because they say he's not releasing the ball. So that's the one aspect that I seriously think they need to address, because that will enhance the attacking team to keep playing. But sometimes, and I've seen it, some referees, the way they handle the game, I wouldn't want the ball in a rugby game, and that's wrong. That's why I say let's rather make the player skillful, and then we sort out how we're going to play. And I think that will be hopefully maybe a change that we see after this break.
Right. All right. Yeah. Fair enough. In terms of Indian rugby, I mean, we've addressed the thing about looking at the fitness levels, where a lot of players are actually doing a lot of work in the lead up to it, which is really good to see. They're in touch with Coach Yanni, following programs, becoming sort of fitness role models for other players as well. In terms of size, that's something we just need to, I think, look out for. But to take rugby to the next level, what is the three things that we need to be looking at as a union?
Okay, and I think that's, and I had an interview with somebody the other day, and they said you must be fair, and we must be fair to you guys. You can only do that much. You know, if some structures only allow you to do that much, you can only do that. I think what we seriously need to address going forward is definitely play more internationals. Yeah. You can't believe how many invitations I have for you when we turn back to normal, you know, for playing internationals. That's quite nice. How are we going to get to it? Hopefully we'll be able to work it out, if I can put it that way. See, the player, and I'm talking under correction, okay, but after our final game last year, one player retired, and I think he mentioned something like he's been involved since about 2006, 2003, 2006. I'm not too sure. I can't. But he was saying he like played 25 internationals. Yeah. Now, if you take that in a normal scenario, he should have been over 100 internationals. And I think for India, and not only India, a number of smaller countries, if I can put it that way, in rugby terms, should at least minimum play 8 to 10 internationals. That's the only way players are going to really see how good they are. That's one. So let's hope we can sort that out. I think with that, the total change of attitude will come. Fitness levels will go through the roof because the player will just realize he just have to get to a fitness level that he can actually do something like that. And then, and we spoke about it, you and me, we spoke about it, and the board is trying to get a league. You know, you've got your leagues, but you need to, and I'm very careful saying this, okay? You need to create a scenario where some foreign players, but seriously foreign players can come in, because that's what I saw while I was in Italy and in early 80s in America, is that when you bring in some foreign players, suddenly the local player looks at that and he sees, okay, sometimes, and at one stage in Italy, and that's the only place I can really compare it, Nasser, was all top international players. You know, David Campese was there, John Kerwin, right, Craig Green, Willie Offengower, you name them, and they were there. Wayne Smith, coach of the All Blacks, and they were all there. So you could always sense that the level of the Italian play is at a higher level. Now that's what, you know, we need to try and duplicate, if I can put it that way, because the local player can then suddenly realize, okay, that is the standard, okay, because the league at the moment, and that's what I've experienced, it's not bad. You see, that's definitely not bad. But for them to match themselves against whom the whole time, they need something, I think, of an influx of foreign players. That's one that can assist. I'm not saying it has to, and that can be controlled. I think that's one thing that you have to do. Let's be honest. I think France for a little bit struggled because their influx was just too many foreign players, if I can put it that way. So you need to be very careful how you implement some of these aspects that we're talking about. But that would be nice. And then I still think that, and I'm talking, and we'll get to all the normal stuff after this unfortunate situation where we're in at the moment, is that you know, maybe one or two teams out of India involved in maybe different leagues around the world. There's at least, Nasser, what's nice about the thing is we can talk a lot about, and there's a lot of opportunities, and we need to explore, and then, but at the end, there's only one decision that needs to be made, and that's the one, what is good for Indian rugby. That's what it's all about. It's nothing about individuals or whatever. It is what's good for the Indian player and for Indian rugby. And if we can get that, then I think we've at least succeeded in what we try to achieve. And what we try and achieve is Indian rugby to be better. The players, I think they can vouch for themselves. I think they understand fitness level with Yanni and whatever, and they've worked hard, girls and boys. So all that is already part of. It's just somewhere we need to create opportunities for them to actually excel in the outside world.
Right. All right. Yeah. I mean, it is exactly what we as a board and as a union have been talking about as well, to try and get more game time, more internationals, more opportunities for the players as well to probably play games. I mean, you've got players that will play 4 to 6 games in a year,
Yep.
which isn't enough. And of those 6 games, there'd be half of them that wouldn't be competitive enough to test them. So yeah, so that's definitely something that has to change if we want to make a mark on the international front. What basically just going to go into the last segment, which is slightly more fun, quick, which I don't think you'd have a problem being a fly half in terms of wit. But yeah, just so one word answers or as quick as possible. So yeah, so it's the rapid fire, like we like to call it. Playing or coaching?
Okay, we have a little bit of a break. Say again.
Playing or coaching?
Play.
Rassie Erasmus or Jake White?
Rassie Erasmus or Jake White?
The better coach.
I worked with Jake, so I know Jake much better than I know Rassie. but to be honest, both won World Cups.
True. All right, we'll leave it at that. In your opinion, the best fly half in today's game?
Andre Pollard.
Right. the Springbok World Cup winning team of 1995, 2007, or 2019?
I will always go 95 because that's the first one.
Yep.
But let's be fair to both of 2007 and 19. You're the world champions, so all three. But I will always go to. I will always go, to be fair, for the first one because that's still for me the greatest moment in SA sport. But I must say, 2007 and 2009 is knocking on the door.
Right. Excellent. So you just need to rate these 4 coaches in terms of your preference: Clive Woodward, Graham Henry, Eddie Jones, or Rassie Erasmus?
Graham Henry. And then everybody else.
Right. All right. So we're going to test your knowledge of Hindi. A couple of words that you've picked up while you've been here.
No, I've got my little notebook, so that's not really going. That's not going to be fair today. I've got my notebook, and then when I get back, I'll surprise you a little bit.
All right, excellent, good. You've been doing a bit of homework.
Yeah, doing a little bit of homework. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of homework.
Your favorite Indian food?
I'm not going to be fair to India now. That's one thing that I do struggle with. See, I'm not into flavors. That's the problem. But curry, I will always settle for curry. But if I'm able to eat it, that's the difference. But curry is always my favorite.
We've heard from the pizza shop in Bhubaneswar, they're missing you.
Yes. I tell you, you will not believe, if it wasn't for the pizza place, I would be extremely skinny at the moment.
Okay, last one. Indian men's team or Indian women's team?
Sorry, I have to go with the men's team.
Oh, the women won't be happy.
I have to. The girls achieved something that nobody ever can take away from them. But I have quite a bit of discussions with my own kids about it, and we talk about a lot of men against women and this and that and whatever. The thing is, Nasser, hockey, field hockey, I love my field hockey and whatever. Okay, it's just faster, quicker, and I don't mean it badly.
Fair enough. Well, before we let you go, any message you want to send to all the players, the viewers who are logged in?
Yeah, I just think that we all in an extremely complicated situation, and I think for once we should just listen to what people say is stay at home, stay inside, and look after yourself, because we've seen what can happen, and we don't want anyone to go through that scenario. We had actually 6 ex-Springboks the last 3 weeks going through it, and I'm on their group, and you could see, Nasser, it's not easy. It's really not easy. So rather stay safe and whatever, and then the guys that can and the girls that can, work with Yanni. It's always nice to be fitter, smarter, stronger, faster. And then when we get together, then, we don't need to go back to square one. We can actually start at a higher level. And I think that would be absolutely fantastic. But even for you guys, with the board and yourself and the union, just let's all stay safe.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Naas. Thank you for taking the time out. It's been a pleasure. I hope this phase passes by quickly and we can have you back in India working with our players.
No, thank you. Absolutely fantastic. Thanks.
Excellent. How good was that? So yeah, Naas out there giving us his thoughts, sharing his experiences of playing, of being involved with coaches. I think the good news for us would be to look at things once we get back to normal service in terms of trying at ways of getting more game time, more opportunity to play. Yanni's, I can see he's put up the 1,000 rep challenge for everyone who's interested. I think that's pretty much it for today. Do log in for the next episode, which is on Wednesday, 15th of April, 6 p.m. We're going to be featuring very own Pocket Rocket, Sweetie Kumari, and Rahul Bose is going to be in interviewing her. But until then, guys, look after yourself, stay safe, stay fit, and stay at home. All right, thanks a lot.